Before we get started, I would like to give a shout out to Ghana Podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Indie Artist Music Hustle with Blonde Intelligence. I'm your host, Miss Ronnie, where I always seek to give you exquisite cranial repertoire. This week, we have a very special guest. We have Connor. Say hello to everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Well, I normally do is let the guest take over, so I'm going to let you take over and tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Connor Cherland. I'm based in Los Angeles for the last little bit over a year. Spent the last 11 years working as a full-time musician, or being a full-time musician for the past 6 years in Santa Barbara. And that's pretty much been the game. I've been doing a bunch of gigs. I've done over like 1,100 gigs in the last 7 years, and put out 6 EPs, and I'm working to fund my first full-length album at the moment.
Okay. So tell me about your genre of music.
Yeah, I lately have been a lot more indie rock. I started out a lot more singer-songwriter, like Ed Sheeran made it really easy to be like, all right, I'm going to pick up a guitar, grab a loop pedal, and start hitting the bars. And then from there started listening to more indie rock bands like The National or Gaslight Anthem, and that's kind of been my North Star since then.
Okay. So tell me, with all the hoopla going on about the AI, I'm really excited about using more advanced artificial intelligence in music, especially for collaborations, because I hear a lot of artists will say, I had the song in my head, but when I performed it with the band, it just wasn't the same. And
Mm,
so I look at alleviating that problem with using artificial intelligence. You know what tone you want, you
mm,
know how you want it to sound. And so you can build that collaboration using the computer now. So tell
yeah.
me, as an artist, how do you feel about artificial intelligence advancing into the music industry?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting idea that you just said with being able to refine your searches. So like I've been using AI like when I meet certain musicians or when I am playing shows with certain musicians, I'll ask it. I'll be like, "Can you tell me about John Doe and like what he's into?" And it'll give me a very simple bio. And I'll
Hmm.
I'll be like, that seems a little vague. Can you give me something more specific? And then I'll just copy and paste that question 12 times. And by the 12th time, it's giving you the most like detailed information. It's like this guy built a boat with his father in 2009
Let
after
me
he.
tell you something about that, because I took a training on Chat GPT or whatever it was, and it sounds great. But then you go back in and you ask it, are you telling the truth? Did this
Yeah,
come from this person right here? And
yeah.
it'll apologize to you and tell you, no, I made it up.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Okay. So yeah, so then I guess I've been using it not the best way. Yeah, I think it's cool to be able to like when it does interface with audio, I think it's cool to be able to be like, no, I want it to sound more like this person. I don't think in its current form it knows tone like we do. Like when I ask it to
Well,
like
they have one called the voice recognition,
yeah,
and it was a big thing about it was an artificial intelligence collaboration between Future and somebody. I can't remember who it was, and the record label got involved and had everything shut down because you actually can make the voice sample a person's voice to make it sound the way that you want it to sound. So just say, for instance, this is just me. Um, I want to do a single, and I want Aretha Franklin, Beyonce, and Shay Jones to sing the background vocals for me.
right.
In my head, I know how that would sound. You would still have to have some type of, I would say, musical background, computer background, some type of programming. So it's not like it's going to be available to just everybody out there on the street.
Right.
But a person that is actually doing it and actually an artist and actually making a sound and actually want to create it because they cannot find the people to do it.
Right.
I mean, so I think that it is advanced in that area. It's just not available to everybody, I would say.
Yeah, and maybe I misspoke because I wouldn't say like it does understand how to recreate tone in terms of like yeah I can recreate Beyonce's tone because her voice is like pretty distinct and you can make something that sounds like that. But if you were to be like write me a song in the style of Beyonce, like it would guess a genre and not necessarily like her voice. Like I've asked it to be like, how do you think this person sounds? Like write me a paragraph in the voice of this person or this person, and it's like pretty far off. So I do think for like copying voices, I think it's brilliant for like creating like quick fast arrangements is really brilliant. I think of it more as like a brainstorming idea, or the same way that people use samples in Logic, where it's just like you can use samples in Logic, and then people when they hear it, they're like, "Oh, this is a cool demo." Like I'm really excited for you to like get real people playing this. So I still really see it at that stage, but I think it's going to unlock like basically what like Logic and Simple DAWs did for like the common man. It's going to do that even more so and like make it more available because they can just type it in English.
Hmm. So tell me about your latest project and what type of AI did you use?
I didn't use any AI on this.
Okay.
Yeah, these songs a lot of them came out of the last about year of living in Los Angeles, and there was a lot of grief, a lot of mourning that I had to view, and at the same time, like a lot of people in my life were experiencing grief, and at the same time, I was going to music lessons with one of my musical heroes, who I like learned about. Like I learned that he lived in LA. I was thinking about like what would make
Who is
living
this
in LA.
hero?
His name is Josh Kaufman, and he's
Okay.
he's a composer that I've followed for quite a number of years,
Hmm.
and he's just his style is really beautiful to me, and so I thought about what would make living in LA really cool, and I was like, well, it'd be cool if I could work with this guy. So I just shot like a random DM and was like, let's see what'll happen, and he was like, sure, come over. I'm 15 minutes away from you. And
Okay.
yeah, so he's been giving me music lessons since like November, and now he's like helping out with the record, and it's so the songs are a lot more they dive into a lot more musical concepts than I have before in my past, and they dive into a lot more human concepts than I have in my past work. So I'm excited to share it. There's a lot of really cool sounds coming in, and yeah, I just think it's going to be a really beautiful piece.
So how long have you been working on this project?
I've been so I write songs kind of year round. So
Hmm.
this year probably wrote about or like between like November and now I've written about 60 songs, and like I picked kind of
Wow.
the best 10 that I thought would fit,
Hmm.
and they're thematically similar, and they what I did is I created a whole bunch of like Logic demos, and then I just started
Hmm.
playing around with the song order, and then I
Hmm.
started like burning them as like a single long track so I could hear it as an album in the car until I felt like, oh, this is like a real album. This is like these tracks feel good next to each other. This is a solid 35 minutes as it is. Let's start shopping it around to my friends and producer friends, and let's see if they agree that this is a record.
Okay. So it was just that, I'm not going to say just that, but you felt like the melodies fit together.
Hmm.
Why didn't you feel that about the other EPs that you did? Why didn't you combine two EPs and make an album instead of waiting so long to actually make an actual album?
Yeah, I think the a lot of that is just financial. Of
Hmm.
like it costs twice as much, And but that's probably a bad excuse because this year I also I'm fundraising for it, so it's like
Hmm.
now just felt like the right time. Um,
Oh,
the the other records that I've made are largely like an exercise in like what am I capable of? Like,
hmm.
can I just these are a bunch of good songs. I wrote them in the last year, maybe 2 years. Here we go. I've probably written like two of those EPs are probably like thematically tight. I wrote a love
Hmm.
songs album in 2020 is when that got released. It was just a bunch of
Hmm.
love songs and um,
That was during COVID.
yeah, yeah,
So was a lot of this songwriting because you had the time during COVID, or it was something that you already were like in the groove of, and then
yeah,
COVID hit, and it was like, well, I can make some lemonade out of
yeah.
these lemons.
Exactly. It was the second one. I don't know about you, but I was a trash writer in COVID. So like all I could write was like the most literal thing. Like there's a siren from an ambulance driving down my street, and I'd be like, "There's nothing. I have no poetry to say. I'm not having a good time." Um, so was that the same for you during COVID?
Um, Actually, during COVID, I worked for the government, so
Oh well.
we just worked from home. And when I got off from work, I would get into my truck and go riding. I didn't stay cooped in like they said. I did stay away from people,
Yeah.
but I would say no, COVID wasn't that hard on me. I
Nice.
still was working. I still worked from home, and I still and got out into nature, not necessarily with people.
Yeah.
So yeah, it did give me time to work on things that I wanted to work on for myself, like put more into my website and more into my merchandise that I do. I mean, so it gave me time for that. But after COVID, it was like hard with trying to keep up with the pace
Mm-hmm.
of what you could do during COVID because then you went back to, I would say, the real world.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. Yeah. Uh, yeah. So I had a very hard time writing during COVID. So all of those love songs were like largely written prior to that event, and then I got to we recorded that remote, and then figured it
Hmm.
out figured it out remote.
Hmm.
Mm.
So when is the release date?
The release date for this record is hopefully October. So we're
Okay.
yeah, we're recording pretty fast and yeah, trying to be as experimental as we can while being on a quick timeline.
Yeah, that is a quick timeline if you hadn't finished actually recording.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know I listen, and I always say to each his own, however you want to run your life, because, I feel like people have to be trailblazers to find out what's going to work and what's not going to work. But I noticed that a lot of artists, especially ones that were interviewed on the show, would say during COVID that they started releasing a song every month.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if it's just to release just to keep something out, then yeah. Are you trying to make money off of it? Are you trying to get it into playlists? What are you trying to do with it? Are you just releasing music? So I never did understand the concept of releasing music every month or dropping
Mm.
a single every week because I'm not understanding the concept of what the artist is trying to do with it. And then
Mm.
even with if you're trying to get on the playlist, Spotify recommends that you submit the music to the curator at least 2 weeks before the release.
Right.
Okay. Realistically, do you think they're going to get to you in 2 weeks? So
Oh,
you
interesting.
want to give it as much time as you can before the release. So you can do that. So you can have the press releases. So you can have the interviews for it. So you can, I mean, all those different things. So you can set up your pre release so that when it actually drops, then all that hit at that same week. If you registered for the charts and have your virtual encodes and everything, a lot of artists would do part of it but not all of it, and I don't
Mm,
understand the goal. So
yeah.
I'm gonna ask, what is your goal when you drop this album?
Yeah. One of the goals is just to make a good piece of art that I can stand by. So
Hmm.
that's one of my main objectives in doing it. The other piece is like, yes, how do we move the career forward? And a lot of it is doing the things that you're talking about. Can we submit early? Can we do a really good job of press? Like right now, I'm really working like the podcast circuit, and
Hmm.
that, like when you think about emails.
That sounds good because I didn't mean to cut you off, but like on my promo, I when I got ready to do my promo, and it was the girl was like, "Let me tell you about this new podcast," and she's like, "Girl, everybody got a podcast these days,
Yeah.
but people also need to understand because everybody have a podcast these days
Mm-hmm.
that if you go through, I think it's called Podcorn,
Okay.
you can submit yourself to get placements for the first 30 seconds, if you want mid roll and all that. And
Right.
sometimes you can do it for like a week and it can be as cheap as $15. So
Wow.
advertising on podcasts is actually very economical
Yeah.
for an independent music artist,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
especially
absolutely.
on music podcasts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, but I would say that my success in it has also been like pretty decent. Like when I was working in a tech job, part of the math that they were trying to teach us was like every 9 no's is going to be one, like you're going to find one yes, like, but you have to be willing to get 9 no's to get one yes, so it's always like a 1 in 10 kind of a number. And that's kind of the numbers that I've been doing with like podcasts, of like send 80 emails, get 8 replies, like, but you have to be willing to like send 80 emails. Like it's like,
Well, I'm also a tastemaker for a company called Share to Pros. So
okay,
you might
wonderful.
want to check some of those out too because it's bloggers, music executives, A&Rs. Another one is called Groover. So there are many different outlets where you can like submit in to a whole bunch of people just off of one
Yeah,
submission.
cool. Yeah, I just wrote those down. Yeah, that'd be wonderful. Um, yeah, so the goals: make the best art that I can, try to advance my career, and that yeah, so that'll just involve me doing the best job at press that I've ever done before, which I'm willing to do. I have the time, so I'm happy to do it.
All right. So tell me what you think about the dependence on social media.
Hmm, that's a great question. What do I think about it? I there's something that I heard someone else say the other day, ironically on social media, and they were saying that like um, the music industry used to work a lot more on like a talent basis, where
Hmm.
the most talented people were rising to the top, and that was the people that you would hear on the radio as people who were like really they were
Extraordinary.
yeah, extraordinary, and they were almost groomed for the job.
Hmm.
So by the time that they got the job, it was right for them and it was perfect.
Hmm.
And like it was still tough on them, but it's the exact thing that they were built for. And they were saying now a lot of people are gaining in popularity, and some of them are incredibly talented, and some of them are like they are still talented, but they're more so like charismatic or some other they're like
Their personality
yeah,
instead of an
exactly,
actual talent. So
right,
yeah, I get it exactly where you're coming from on that one.
yeah, yeah,
But I asked about the social media because I don't know if you're familiar with like Lil Bootsy, but at
mm-mm.
one time he had lost his Instagram page. I know Donald Trump had lost his Twitter at
Yeah,
one particular time, and so I know that when people are getting ready to book for shows and events, that's one of the things that they ask about your social media. And
Right.
I'm just wondering your thoughts, just your personal thoughts on being dependent on social media, because I know I lost the Instagram page. I didn't even care about it. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
I feel like I don't depend on it as much. But I know some artists say that's the way that they make money. And then when you're submitting yourself to perform at different gigs and events, they want to know about your social media. But in essence, your social media is not even in your hands if they decide that they want to delete your account. So, how do you feel about social media for an artist? I know it's
Yeah.
a double-edged sword, but
Yeah. I think like the way that the music industry uses social media is exactly that, where they're trying to view you as a number, and I feel like it's a social media following um is just a lazier, for lack of a better term, a lazier way of gauging crowd interest. When you might have 1,000 followers, but what if that 1,000 followers are like actual like roadies who like come to your every show, and then you get like,
hmm
so like
they
you
don't know
don't.
how authentic your audience is, and
Correct.
and sometimes it's quality over quantity. You can have 1 million followers, but you only going to get a third, and that's good if you even get the 200,000 that's really going to support you out of those million followers. I mean, because
Absolutely.
you have to realize that half of the followers are haters anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, for you, how is it?
For me, it's I have a hard time with it. I would prefer not to be on social media. That would be my ideal. It's like I think of the artist job as, again, like making the best art, like getting lost in a moment and being able to like come out with good art. Like I think that is like the artist's role, like the job of like channeling the muse, kind of a thing. You like go away and you come back with a piece of art.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the role of social media is like more of that marketing role, which I really value. And I think as we continue to broaden what it means to be in the music industry, and like you have a lot of people who are doing stuff from home, and they don't have a team. If you don't have a manager and a marketer and a promoter, like all these things are different, so you have to be the promoter. And like uh I'm lucky in that I worked a tech job before this, so like they taught me how to use um Illustrator and Photoshop, and then from there it was easy for me to learn like Adobe Premiere and like how to edit my own
Mm-hmm.
videos and all that kind of stuff. But like
Mm-hmm.
um but if you don't know how to use any of those products, like it would make content
It's a
creation.
lot more difficult
Yeah,
and
exactly.
expensive.
Yeah, exactly. So I basically like since 2016 have been recording almost every single gig that I do or every interview that I do, and then like using those as like ways to like chop it up. I like started my own podcast so that I could like talk with musicians about similar concepts and like take that content and chop it up. And like so much of my brain goes into how do I continue to feed this machine? And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's good, and I think that it's just different than I think what the artist job really is, which is to be
Mm-hmm.
like in a more emotional, long conversation with yourself and the culture.
So you feel that as being an independent artist, and even if you do have a small team, that you're giving more to the business side of being an artist rather than the emotional side of being an artist.
Yeah, I would say that's right on.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about your last EP, because that's what people can listen to now. They only can anticipate the
Yes.
upcoming album. So tell us a little bit about the EP.
Yeah, my last EP was called Call Waiting. It was put out with Santa Barbara Records back in
Mm-hmm.
October.
Mm-hmm.
And that has four really good indie rock songs, and then 2 singer-songwriter songs of my own. And that deals with a lot of like themes of loss, but it's a really fun record to listen to. I like really enjoy listening to and playing all of those songs. And yeah, that was my first record that I made while living in Los Angeles. And I kind of just threw my fate into the hands of the producer and was like, hey man, this is my first time moving to LA. I just met you, and I think you're a good guy. Let's just, I'm not gonna fight you if we have like any creative differences. I'm just gonna let you win. And
no.
Yeah, well, it was like I already have the songs, so like he wasn't like looking to change the songs. He was just gonna add some seasoning to it. Yeah. So I was like, in a scenario where you're like, oh, should we extend this like 2 bars or 4 bars? Maybe I'm like, I don't know, dealer's choice, take it. And it's being like, I'm gonna let you, like, if we both agree on the direction, then I'm not gonna bug you about like little things, like what we listen to on the car ride or whatever. So that was a wonderful experience, and I think like he introduced me to some of my favorite people in LA through making that record, and yeah, it was just fun to make. We made it in 1 week.
1 week?
Yeah. Yeah, we made it in 1 week. One of the guys that we were supposed to record with, he got a broken foot on the Monday we were supposed to record, and he like got into surgery, and so he wasn't available. So we had to find like pinch hitters the last second. It was a really fun week, a little bit stressful, and I really like the record that we got out of it. My favorite song on the record is Call Waiting, the title track.
Okay. So what grade would you give the album, the EP as a whole?
I'd give it a B. Like
you give it a B?
Yeah, I think it would be an A if the other 2 songs, the singer-songwriter songs, were like well produced like the others. But it was a matter of like, I just ran out of money, so I was just like, all right, run out of money. The record label needed 2 more, so I was like, all right, I'll give you 2 more. It was before I knew almost anything about recording, so it was like, I'm not doing a good job of selling it, but I am saying like the other 4 songs are great. The 2 songs that are singer-songwritery are also great. They're just really stripped back, so you're not gonna hear it. Like, it's just my voice and one other instrument. So if you're looking for it to crescendo in some way, it's gonna stay where it is.
Okay. Well, I thank you for coming. I want you to give everybody your social media handle where they can find your EPs at. And you said October, and that you released this last EP in October. So I'm gathering that it's something significant about October. If you want to tell anybody about what October means to you and anything else from Connor.
Yeah, my name is Connor Cherland. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is that you use, TikTok, on Connor Cherland. You can just type in my last name, share like the singer, land like the ground. And yeah, I love the fall. I have all good feelings about the fall. And yeah, I do live shows kind of all the way throughout California. I'm coming up to San Francisco in late June, and I play around LA all the time. So yeah, if there's anybody out there in those areas, I'd love to see you.
All right. Well, you heard him. You can follow him. Type in his last name, share like the singer, and land. I'm assuming that he's on all streaming platforms. His latest EP was called
Call Waiting.
So check him out. Remember, you can find us on all podcasting platforms. You can find us streaming live on social media on Wednesdays. And also, if you're listening to us on rpentradio.com, you can hear us doing the Freedom Mix, and you will hear one of Connor's singles played during the Freedom Mix. So we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Hey girl, let me tell you about this podcast.
Girl, everybody has a podcast these days.
But this one interviews new and interesting indie artists. It's called Indie Artist Music Hustle with Blonde Intelligence.
Really? Where can I find it?
It's on all podcasting platforms, streams live on social media, and on rpentradio.com.
What'd you say it was called again?
It's called Indie Artist Music Hustle with Blonde Intelligence.
Girl, I'm gonna have to check her out.